Moving on now, Mr. Heineken Lukoberi, a former Nigerian senator, was named Minister of State for Petroleum, while Mr. Ekperikpe Ekpo, a former member of the House of Representatives, was named Minister of State for Gas Resources. Well, let's talk about the expectations from these two gentlemen. And I introduced him earlier, a partner with Zara Advisory and Consulting, Mr. Joseph Nwakwe. He's an oil and gas advisor, he's a consultant, and also a former chairman of SPE Nigeria. Thank you so much, Mr. Nwakwe. It's good to see you.
Thank you, and good afternoon.
Yes, I think there's a lot of work to be done here. But first, what is your understanding? Petroleum Ministry and Gas Ministry, all under the same Ministry of Petroleum Resources. What do you think about this slight division?
Well, my understanding is that right now we are going to have two, if you like, call them junior ministers in the ministry. It's still one ministry from what I get. And there will be a minister of petroleum. And these two will be helping that person to drive changes and reform in their own specific. So you're going to have Mr. Lukobri looking at oil, and then Mr. Ekperikpe looking at gas. That's pretty much what I heard. We've done this before, right? This is not the first time we're having a specific minister looking at the subgroups, sub-sectors of the economy. So I think it is what it is, if you ask me. But one had expected that we'll have just one single minister. It's easier to coordinate policy that way. But we'll try to see how this will work.
Indeed, I was reading through today and I saw this. I want you to react to it. The Nigeria's oil and gas sector can still bounce back with the right approaches. Where do we start from if we are to approach this rightly?
Okay, yeah, and I agree with that sentiment. We can still, revive the sector for growth. But where do we start? I think first and foremost, you have to look at what is the biggest challenge we have today. Output levels are down, so we need to restore output to a level that can help, especially with the Forex challenges we're dealing with. So the oil and gas remains the sector with the best potential, if you like, in terms of helping Nigeria out of its current quagmire. So where do we start? We need to build investor confidence in the sector. We need to get the investors back in, spending money, building projects, and hopefully capacity as well. So that's where I think we need to start. And it's doable. I hope that we have people who can help drive that change.
Very important one. Let's stay a bit around deregulation before we move forward so that we don't spend all time on it, because I know it's really topical, and the issues of marketers at the moment. I'd like to ask a very simple question, like how attractive or how easy is it for me to want to import PMS at this time? The market has been opened up, but it seems like getting the FX and other issues affecting landing costs. Please take us through where we are with regards to this.
Well, if you say how easy is it to import? Yeah, it is as easy as it is to get Forex. So I think the bottleneck is accessing Forex for now. It's something that I hope some people are looking at. It's deregulated, and remember, we've had this conversation before.
Yes.
We need to diversify the supply side. And to do that, they need to be able to access Forex. Sadly, we're in a very tight Forex situation. And that makes it very difficult for players in the sector who have expressed willingness to participate in the supply side. But they're having some challenges accessing Forex. And that's something that I hope the government will be able to work out an arrangement that will enable them to come into the space and play. And that way we can have genuine competition in the sector.
Now that government needs to boost production, you alluded to that, from about 1.3 maybe to about 2.6 Well, I think the target is for 2027 or even that. But do you think that will benefit from the energy deficit in Europe and the hydrocarbon demand from industrialized nations such as China and India? What positive is in this for us?
Yes, I mean, if you look at in the last couple of in the last 2 months, you can see that there has been an uptick in crude oil prices. Brent is 80 some 82, 83 right now. So that tells you that the market is undersupplied to some degree, and you can see some countries are cutting back just to help, to keep it. So it's a unique. I wish we had capacity at this point to at least fill up our quota. Sadly, we don't. And I think whoever is coming in, if you ask me, in the near term, should focus on restoring our developed capacity, which I think is anywhere around 2 billion barrels of oil per day. So I would see that as an emergency that whoever comes in or the group that is coming in will focus on addressing very quickly in short order to restore that volume. It will help the country significantly.
Let's move to gas, which we talked about a decade of gas at a particular time, and now we are really getting into it as government is looking that route. CNG, the gas commercialization programs that we had before now, and all of this. But as of today, the gas will still flare. Not me, according to Nostra. We are losing about 34.1 billion naira flaring gas. I don't know. And we need this gas to power our plants, to power our vehicles. What do you think are the quick wins for the Ministry of Gas? Yes, let me ask that way.
Yeah, for the Ministry of Gas, there are a couple of ongoing activities that they need to focus on and ensure completion. One is the gas flare commercialization initiative, which is right there. It's been ongoing. I think they've restarted that process again. So I hope that they will be able to, see it to conclusion. The 700 plus million that we flare every day, even if we can only reduce it by half, that's significant. That's a huge savings. So that's very important. I think whoever comes in should focus on getting 27 done. That's very critical as well. AKK is another ongoing project that needs to be completed, and I hope they'll be able to find the required funding to get that done. A few other ongoing activities in the gas space that will require. But remember, the minister is the policy head, right? For beyond being the overall supervisor, the minister's primary objective or focus should be on policies that will drive growth. So I expect to see activities around infrastructure policies that will help bring in private capital into the space, whether it's pipelines, central processing facilities, and all that. I hope they will focus on getting players in. We need very dearly, we need infrastructure in the gas space. A whole lot of what we are pushing, CNG and all this, they're all nice, but they do not. If you look at the economics, pipe gas is still the cheapest way to get gas from one point to the other. So I think that we need to have a national gas grid, just like we have for electricity. And I hope that whoever takes over, Mr. Ebo has been announced, so that he will focus on developing policies that will enable the placement of a national gas grid.
When we talk policy and laws, I want us to go back to our almighty PIA. And some say that, yes, that has adequate provisions to end gas flaring. Is it clearly stipulated on how we can actually attract the needed investment? Governments cannot fund the gas infrastructure on their own. So it's a two-in-one thing. Can the PIA address this? And what more is the PIA doing to bring in these guys that have the deep pockets? They have the dollars that we need to build this sector.
Very good point. You said the PIA on itself is just a a set of law, right? It won't. There's a limit to what it can do. However, a faithful implementation of the PIA will help restore investor confidence in the sector. I think that if you look at the trend, we are unable to attract the required level of investment to grow or even maintain our base. Even in the gas space, look at, we've gone down from 8 point something to 7 point something BCF a day. So there's a decline that is happening both in oil and gas. We need investment to not just maintain the base, but to grow volumes. Now, the PIA helps to set the framework. But again, the investor is not going to just focus on the framework. He's going to be looking at how faithful you are with the implementation of that framework. So I think it's very important that we, in trying to restore investor confidence, there are three key things that I think are very necessary. We need transparency, we need effective communication, and we need regulatory certainty. These are things that, for now, they are still people are still watching to see where we are on any of this. So it's important that we do those in short order again, because time is running out of Nigeria, really. So we need to get that going, and it's not just, and that's one of the challenges I had with the separation of gas and oil. These two are together, right? The investments that will come, and I've said this before, it's kind of difficult today, especially in the upstream, to talk of gas investment. So it's typically, because if you look at the distribution of our gas resource, it's 50% NAG, 50% AG. So associated and non-associated, sorry about that. So you see that the developments tend to tag along. So it would have been nice. They are very intrinsically connected, that I think that a single minister would have been, for me, the perfect situation choice at this point. But in the wisdom of the president, he has started to split it. And I understand the desire to push gas for power, essentially. But I always tell people that it is the same money that will go into the upstream that will decide whether it does gas or oil. And today we have a shortfall in gas output, and that has to be addressed. How we go about attracting that investment into the gas space is something that I hope that the Minister of State Gas will work out, because it's very important that the reserves are not just in the ground, that we can produce them and monetize these reserves. So it's very important.
It's getting more interesting, Mr. Joe, and I'll follow up with, are we not likely to have issues with regulation? And now that we are talking about gas and petroleum on different sides, because some experts have identified that we might have issues around that. Are you thinking along that line too?
Yeah, the PIA kind of revamped our regulatory framework. But like you know, it's a work in progress. So it's an ongoing activity, and I hope they will add vigor to the implementation. I hope that they will push harder. Regulation is key to attracting investment. I have my personal take on it is that we are moving very slowly on the regulatory side. We need to move much faster and swifter. But again, it talks to capacity. So one of the things I think the new Minister of State, both for oil and gas, will focus on is helping build regulatory capacity. It is very important. The investor community is not going to be comfortable coming into a place where they think that anything goes. So regulatory certainty is very key. We've addressed the issue of fiscal certainty. That's done. But we need to move on and provide some regulatory certainty. It is very important. In terms of the gas, the numbers, again, we need to build output. There's no reason why we are not doing 13, 14 BCF a day from the upstream. So we need to be able to start looking at building. Indeed, I would think that after 4 years, if we are not at least 12 BCF per day, then they would have failed. We need to be able to grow those volumes. In the oil space, the same. There's no reason why. So I think in the near term, they need to get us back to 2 million barrels of oil per day, max 8 months from now. And thereafter, they need to now start looking at how do we get to at least 2.5 MBO before they leave. So that's for me is a realistic targets that they can set for themselves and say, oh, before we leave office, we want to leave this country with 2.5 million barrels of oil per day, 12 to 14 BCF of gas output per day, and on and on. So set realistic targets and pursue them. And I think the country will be better for it. I say this because there is no other sector that can get us out of this hole we're in currently faster than the oil. Oil and gas is probably, it got us here and it can get us out of it very quickly. So while we are focusing on solid minerals and other things, the resources you need to grow those sectors will necessarily have to come from this sector.
Interesting stuff there. I must thank you for your time. This is much time can take on the show today. I've been speaking to Mr. Joseph Nwankwe, who is a partner at Zero Advisory and Consulting, a former chair of Society of Petroleum Engineers Nigerian chapter. Thank you so much for your brilliant contributions. We sincerely appreciate this.
Thank you very much, Tolu. Have a good day.